Hey everyone, I'm Randy Searles. Welcome. I'm a former Green Beret and Ranger, and I've been an editor for at least a decade. So, developmental editor, book coach, ghostwriter. Probably worked on about 60 or 70 different manuscripts. And I'm here with my friend Dan. We're just here to answer any questions about publishing and writing and editing and any of those pieces. If anyone's got any questions, or we're just going to talk otherwise about the same stuff. And I'll let Dan introduce himself.
Hey, Randy. Dan Pace, retired Special Forces guy, and now an author. So I write as a side hustle, and I'm aspiring to do it full time. What I love talking to people about is, kind of one, the writing process. I love writing. I like talking to people about their writing, but also the kind of dirty backside of it that nobody likes to think about when they get into it. And I have jets flying overhead, so apologies. Nobody likes to think about the dirty backside of writing, but I do love to talk about that side of self-publication because a lot of people kind of stumble into it, and it can be a little daunting. So looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, I mean, I get every single person I've ever spoken to. Like if I'm helping a book coach, or if I'm ghostwriting their book, or if I'm just looking at their first draft, they're always like, "What's my next step?" And so that's the biggest question. I mean, you always told me that the last one.
I'll mute when they come over.
You always told me before that 20, you thought it was you're 80% done after you finish writing, but now you're thinking it's more like you're 20% done and 80%'s coming up.
It's sad but true. It's a lot to finally get the book out the door. And I'm just basking in the afterglow of having done that. But even then, just had a launch. New book. It'll Buff Out hit number one, which is great. It's still a number one new release, and it's done a couple of stints as the number one in its category. So it's doing well, but you still can't just sit back and just kind of relax, because now you're trying to figure out, okay, well, you've got some organic movement. How do you reinforce that with advertising? How do you kind of drive, that launch week, that launch month that are so critical? And I'm just waiting for the time when I get to be, the author that's like sipping the martinis and just like occasionally signing a book, and that's it. And I don't know when that time comes, but for the moment, it's still a pretty immersive task.
Well, so we'll probably talk about your marketing next time, because I wanted to kind of stew for a couple of weeks. But I know you got kind of two new books. We got three new books, right? You got the kids book coming out. Well, you're working on them anyway. You got your second kids book, your sequel, and then you have the Kraken and the Whale and the Kraken. What was it?
The sequel, yeah, the second one's called The Kraken's Quest. It's about half done.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you got your third memoir that you're working on,
Mhm.
and then you got this other one. What's it called? Over a beer.
Over a beer. Yeah. So for me, the writing process, there's different phases, right? So the Kraken's Quest, I've got it all outlined. It's done. Now I'm just filling in the blanks. So that's like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. I can peck away on that. I can get it going. The last.
That's good.
The last book in the trilogy, Variations Authorized, it'll be the last book in the GWAT trilogy. That's in outlining. So basically, I've got, some of the forward done. I have a few scenes done, but mostly I'm still outlining that guy out. And then the third one, Over a Beer, I have to actually research. Like, I'm used to writing stuff that just comes out of my head. So it's mostly my time and, putting pen on paper. But in this case, I'm going to do a collection of short stories. So I want to collect 20 interviews, and I want to turn those into 20 narrative stories, and use those to kind of tell the parallel events that were going on during kind of the GWAT trilogy. So I'm writing the GWAT trilogy from a memoir point of view. I want to tell the Army's story during that time. But of course, you only get a small arc because you're looking at the units that happen to be in. Over a Beer wants to broaden that out and say, okay, here's what also was going on in 2006. Here's a guy in 2003, who's doing stuff in Colombia where he's trying to rescue these hostages that have been lost for years. Here's another guy in Africa in 2011 that's working in this disaster that's unfolding in, the kind of Horn of Africa. And here's an AC-130 pilot. Here's a carrier pilot trying to land his F-18 on a carrier. And what does that life look like? And I want to get that day in the life data so that people can really get, an understanding of all the different ways it could look for you to be a soldier during the GWAT. And I'm excited about it, but it's going to take 6 to 10 months to probably collect all the research. And so I'm like, okay, well, I feel safe like phasing this out. I'm going to start collecting all that and get it done, and then I can work on the other books parallel. So I mean, what about you? Are you like a one project at a time kind of guy? Or are you like, no, I can get all these out there? How do you do it?
So, well, I haven't written as many books as you have. I mean, for myself, my own books, but I currently have 2 Ghost Rain projects I'm working on where I'm writing 2 people's books. I meet with them a couple times a month and do interviews. I have a biography I'm working on. This guy was he was a pilot for the OSS, and his son, when he passed away, his son got this box of stuff, and he never talked about what he did. Start pulling all this stuff out. So finds out he's a pilot for the OSS and all these awards he got and stuff like that. And he asked me that if I could put together a biography for him. So I'm trying to do that and send off for his records and put everything, kind of read all the stuff he had in the box and put something together. And I did that for another veteran like last year, about 8 months ago. This guy won the Congressional Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, a Silver Star, 4 Bronze Stars, 6 Purple Hearts. I mean, I don't know. I got some of those numbers wrong, but the big ones, he got 1 of each.
It's amazing.
And and he was in 3 wars. He was in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And he never had a book written about him. He had a lot of newspaper articles written about him, but he never had a book written about him. So his granddaughter, asked me if I could help her do that. So I did that. That came out last year, and it was his name is Lloyd Scooter. Lloyd, in quotes, Scooter was his nickname because he used to scoot on the football field. He used to scoot around, so that followed him his whole life. Lloyd Scooter Burke, and so that's been out for a while, and I was pretty proud of that one because that was a lot of research and trying to put it all together and recreating his highest award that he got on combat in Korea was awesome. I read like 20 newspaper articles that kind of talked about it. A lot of it was similar, but each one had a little piece of more information that when they interviewed him. And so I put that all together and just created this scene where he had a ticket out of Korea. He'd been there for 14 months. And he heard that his old unit was stuck and on Hill 200. So he decided, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go do a logistic. I'm going to help resupply. So he leads a resupply over there. The battalion is decimated. There's like 20 guys. There's like 20 or 40 guys left, and they're led by an E5 or an E6. All the lieutenants are dead. Everyone that goes up the hill dies. Everyone else is bunkered down. No one's advancing. He goes into the TOC, and the colonel is like, well, I guess we should do it one more time. who wants to lead this one? They've already, all companies are decimated. Like company after company is decimated. There's just these 30 guys left, like a platoon worth of guys up there. And they're out there, and the TOC's in the back. And Lloyd's like, I'll do it. And he didn't even have a gun. He turned his gun in already. So he goes up there. He crawls through the little foxholes and all the trenches and stuff. He gets up there, and everyone's like hunkered down because the Chinese got the upper ground. They're just like
Just hammering these
and
dudes.
and he's hammering the dude. He's like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. You got an extra gun, and like there's dead people guns over. He's like, yeah, here you go. He grabs the guns, like, all right, follow me. And he just goes to the edge of the trench and charges up the hill. And everyone's like, what the fuck? And I don't even know. As far as I can tell, no one he was even firing really, except for like the new platoon sergeant who was like an E6 or something. He runs up there. He kind of surprises them, and they're like, oh, what the hell? They start shooting. They're missing. They throw grenades. There's eyewitness accounts where he's catching the potato grenades and throwing them back.
It's amazing.
And then he jumps into the pit, the trenches, and like runs out of ammo, pulls his pistol out, bam, 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 like Josie Wales, and then like and then they come up and catch up, and he's like, hey, I think I saw you guys, like, keep their heads down. I think I saw over a hill that overlooks the rest of the trenches. He grabs 50 cal and goes up he grabs a bar. So it's a different kind of 50 cal.
Yeah.
He grabs a bar, machine gun, and a shitload of ammo. This guy's like 5'1", and he charges up this hill. He makes it up there, overlooks the trenches, puts the ammo in there, and just blows they think he killed like 400 guys by himself. And he just blows them all away. He runs out of ammo. The rest of them charge up there. He's got his pistol. Finally, his platoon sergeant gets up there and helps him take all these guys out. And then he jumps in the trench, clears the trench, and like, come up here, guys. And they all get up there. And then he calls the battalion commander like 2 hours later. He's like, okay, mission accomplished. Where's the RTO? Mission accomplished. He's like, what do you mean? Where are you? He's like, we took the hill.
Can I get on the plane now? Like I got a flight to catch. Let me get out of here.
The Chinese ran. And so, yeah, I wrote that scene. I was so happy with that scene. It was amazing. And,
that's unreal. That is unreal,
yeah.
But it's amazing. All Medal of Honor stories are like that. There's just these legendary stories. Like, how the hell did you do that? But man, awesome. So you talk about research on that. It's interesting, right? Because you're using records. It's a little different, right? Because you're using written records. There's no. I assume you had no interviews. Was it all written records to put
No,
together?
he already passed away. So I interviewed his sister, who was about 80, I think, or something at the time. So I interviewed his sister, but she didn't have a whole lot to say. I interviewed his daughter, because
Gotcha.
it was the client's mother or aunt. I can't remember. So I interviewed her, but she didn't have a lot to say about his military career, obviously. And then she could say like what kind of father he was and things like that, but that was about it.
Sure.
So really, it was like 200 different documents that were digitally sent to me, and I had in a folder, and I had to open each one and kind of and like there like 30 of them were the same newspaper article about this thing that happened. But I read each one, and I highlighted a little bit of each one a little bit differently, an extra nugget, until I could create that scene. I did that, and then he got a silver star like the second day he was in country. Charging a block. The Chinese had blocked a road, and they had him ambushed on either side. He just charged it.
That's amazing.
And yeah, and so you're saying like multiple. I want to talk about research because I want to compare what you're doing with Operation Pineapple Express. But so multiple projects. Yeah, I got 2 ghostwriting projects. I got the bio. I got a developmental edit that I'm doing, and I'm also got individual book coaching. I'm about 10 people that I'm individual book coaching at the same time. So yeah, I'm pretty busy. I'm kind of doing everything, and plus I'm writing my own stuff as well. So yeah, I tell you what though, you have a different job than your creative part where you're writing, but me having to write someone else's stuff for a couple hours a day, having to edit and analyze someone else's stuff. Really, my writing is usually like Sunday. Like I don't do any client stuff on Sunday. I try not to. And that's like, I can't do it. It's not that my mind gets mixed up. It's like I'm creatively drained at the end of the day.
I get it. I feel like that would be a really difficult way to write, because usually if I'm finishing work, I'm finishing something that it might be mentally taxing, but it's a lot of math. It's a lot of talking to people. It's a lot of but it's not really creative in the same way. And so that creative juice is still just waiting there. Like, oh, I want to get this on paper. But I imagine if you were doing nothing but writing people's stuff and looking at people's stuff all day, it'll be hard to pick up a pen and like, I'm going to write my stuff now. Cause you just don't feel like writing anymore. Right? Like I used up my writing for the day already. I'm already burned out on it. I got to think that's tough.
I know. I definitely feel like that sometimes. But I try to like look at it every day and do something, just plan something out so that when I hit the Sunday, I can do 2-3 hours and I already got plans for chapters and things like that. So even if I'm just planning during the week, that way I can wake up Sunday and it's like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 3 hours on my own stuff. And I already got plans and I already got ideas and stuff like that. So that's kind of how I do it. But going back to your first of all, if you think I got any stories that are worthwhile to go in your over a beer book, I'd be glad to do an interview.
I'd love to. Would love to put one of your
The
stories in because everybody has a
the
story. I know you got good ones anyway, but I believe that every person who serves the GWAT, you could be a supply clerk. I bet a day in the life, I bet there's a weird ass day where you just got something to say that it might not be like some heroic Medal of Honor stuff, but it doesn't need to be. It could be the time where you went to salsa night and they're got in a bar fight, or there's like just whatever crazy ass shit your little
yeah.
section to the GWAT brought. To me, that's all
Yeah,
worth capturing.
I think the most of the Army was in the GWAT, GWAT off, GWAT on,
Mhm.
but
Yep.
SF especially, we were all over the place simultaneously. Like it was like
Mhm.
go to Afghanistan, go to South America, go to Iraq, go to South America, go to and it was just back and forth. So we were always half one foot in GWAT and one foot in our, and I think that happened with third group in Africa, and it probably happened in with 10th group and first group. I know first group did a lot of stuff in their AO too. So more specific than the rest of the Army, which was just Iraq and Afghanistan pretty much. I think that's what they just did over and over and over. There was a lot of other stuff going on in the world at the time. Like you mentioned, the 3 hostages that got rescued in 2008. And so there's a hell of a lot of stuff going on. I mean, after I left, the last time I left Afghanistan was in 2007. That's the last time I went to Afghanistan. I'd been there 3 times, and then I never went back. I spent the rest of my career in South America and Africa and Europe.
It's amazing, but I don't think that's an uncommon SF experience. It's uncommon kind of in the rest of the Army, but definitely not in SF. But that's what we're talking about. That's why it's so fun. Like if you were in OEFP, like if you were in Operation Enduring Freedom Philippines, or you did a Korea stint, like later in the GWAT when Korea was hot, like maybe 15, 16. How about if you know who I really want to get? I have a friend of a friend who was in the 173rd unit, 172nd unit. They got deplaned after flying home from Iraq in 2006, and then was told 2 weeks later, you're going to get back on the plane and go back to Iraq. Our bad. The patch chart was wrong. And so they went through the entire like reassimilation process. You're home for like a couple of days, get back on the plane and go to Iraq. I want to hear, what was that like, man? Like, what was that? I mean, just the whole, like you're sitting at your house, you get the call from your squad leader, like, and what happens when you tell your old lady that? I mean, just, there's so many little eaches like that are just great. And none of them are wasted. To me, the waste is that, I mean, really a lot of the focus gets put on either strategic level stuff or like the ultimate badass, like I'm the sniper who killed everybody stuff. But there's a lot of stuff in the middle that to me is quite engaging. I just want to get some of it on paper before it vanishes.
Well, I went to Lancero in '93, but when I was in 2006, I was in Afghanistan as a team sergeant, and I had a new guy on the team, and I was doing my initial counseling, and actually it was during his promotion board, because they were allowing us to do our own promotion boards because there's no place to we couldn't bring him up to BAF. And as my question was like, well, what's your goals while you're in group? What do you want to do? He's like, I want to be just like you, Sergeant. And I'm like, you want to be just like me? You want to go to Ranger school? Absolutely. He's like, you want to go to Lancero school? He's like, absolutely. Like he knew what that was. And I was like, great. They can get you a slot in October. It's like, I'm in. I was like, so I sent him back a month early to take off some time to go to Lancero school, and he went to Lancero school during the GWAT. 4 months awesome. In Columbia, in the commando school in Columbia. I went down there as a PDSS because we were going down there for a mission in the following year, and he was graduating. I was at his graduation ceremony. He's like, I hate you.
I regret this decision. I spoke too soon. Oh my gosh. But there's so much of that. But to your point, one, yes, I would love to get one of your stories in. Whether you write the story or whether I interview and write the story, I'm good either way. Like Adam Karagoose, I think he's going to write his own story to include.
Oh, cool.
Because I don't think that even detracts. To me, it'll be unified enough as long as it's kind of third person, past tense. You're talking about what happened. You've got the narrative, kind of, the narrator's voice of the guy talking through this day. I think that will be unified enough. Past that, it's just going to be this it's just gonna be this awesome collection of just shit that happened. And
How's Adam's book doing? Do you know?
I mean, I think he's doing well. I don't know if it's legendarily well, but it was when I talked to him a week into the launch, it had sold like a respectable number. I was like, oh, that's awesome. It seems like it's going good. He's got the audiobook out there.
He ended up self-publishing, right? Eventually,
He did end up self-publishing. I was wondering the same thing because he went round and round with it, but I mean, he seems happy with his launch, and I read it. It was good. It came out really well. I know he put a lot into that book.
Oh yeah, I got it. I think I did. I read the original, and then I think he gave me a copy, and I read the rewrite. But I don't know if he's going to go through me to edit his second version or second one or not. I know he was originally planning writing a trilogy with it. I don't know if that's still the plan.
I know he said he's thousands of words into the next book, but I don't know. I mean, it's been a couple of weeks. I think he's doing something overseas or something. So he's doing some, day job stuff. But okay. No, I would love it, man. I would love to include one of your stories. Like, again, whatever it is, I don't even care what it is. Like, my brother-in-law was a sniper in Iraq. He did, he had a lot of stuff. He had some really pretty harrowing experiences. But at the same time, he's like, my favorite story ever is I was on this roof in an overwatch position, and it was like 120 degrees outside, and I'm there all day. And he's like, me and my buddy sat there and rewrote the Army song, like just talking to each other back and forth into this like comedy version of the Army song. And you're just watching Iraq go by. You're like, do I shoot anybody? Do I not? Just cooking in this miserable heat. But I think that when you come from like another guy, like I'm trying to get, I think Eric Phillips is going to be willing to work with me and record his story. I mean, he's been one like over on FOBs. Like he's got a legitimately like as heroic as you can get story. But when you take those and you slice them all together into, you get war. You get what war is, which is a hot mess. And so, well, your research is interesting, and I was thinking about it because I'm going to go purely firsthand narrative from people who were there, and that's where I'm going to write it from. I'm going to sound weird. I'm not going to fact check. I'm not going to like go corroborate unless, it's obviously bullshit. I'm going to go with trusted folks, guys that I at least know enough that I'm like, I think this guy tell me a straight story, but I'm actually okay with that. I love that a war story has that kind of element to it. It's like, this is as best as I remember it. I'm going to tell it to you like it was. I'm going to tell it to you like I remember it. And it's probably not going to be as clean narratively, or I'm sorry, it will narratively be clean, but like historically, I expect to find a few discrepancies, but that's how people remember stuff, and that's how it comes out. And I'm okay with that.
I think you should consider, because it sounds like what you said, what came to my mind when you started first talking about it is, divide. I mean, you maybe have a paragraph in kind of a prelude to each one, like 2006 April. This is what's going on. The so and so the helicopter crash just happened, and there's 17 SEALs died, or whatever. Orient them towards the big events that happened in Afghanistan and Iraq. So and so was just captured and died, or this was the 7th year, and the headlines were we were downsizing and we were about to leave, or whatever, because that happened like 6 times at least. like every year. Yeah, every president for sure. So I think all of that, and then you definitely need to get some. I know there's a couple people that were like some of the last ODAs there, in 2021, 2020. Those are great, probably really good stories. Or the last one on the ground when they closed the base, closed CAF. We interviewed one of those guys for Operation Pineapple Express.
So I have good comms with one of the LTs, the Marine LT, who was security on the gate during the evacuation in 21. I mean, I could try and get a guy like General Donahue. I mean, I've at least met him. I've talked to him a bunch of times. I could probably maybe, I don't know. So I'm going to try and slice rank, like go top to bottom and find people of all shapes and sizes. But yes, I'm trying to figure out now narratively how to do that. Do I want to like hook the reader with, here is a thing, and you're like, what is going on here? My chapters always start with like date, time, location, but do you bring them in and like you immerse them and then you kind of zoom back out to what the situation is? Do you what you're talking about, where you straight up orient them to the situation? Here's kind of what's going on, and then you let them follow the story. And I don't know.
I think you should try both and see which ones works. But I think we're orienting them first with just a fact, like a paragraph of facts, like just like this is what has happened, this is what's going on. So when you hit the scene, you can get into when you interview them, you're like, what were you, I mean, ideally, you know what period of time they're going to do the interview for, but the story they're going to tell. And you can say, what were you thinking when the president said this? What were you thinking when the helicopters went down? Did you hear about it? Because I think those perspectives are really kind of interesting as far as seeing like a 3D view of like, when you heard this happened, where were you? Like the same thing with the hostage rescue, right? I think you're going to interview someone that was in on it. I don't know, or there was one big one where Charlie Company almost went, but then they didn't, and then the Colombians actually rescued them. And I think maybe there's some ninja guys, a couple of ninja Americans on there. I don't know. I don't think you're going to talk to any of those guys. Probably triple top secret, but I was there when the Charlie Company guys were getting all wound up and the SEALs came down. So that's probably all top secret too, but it's over. No one ever told me it was top secret. But yeah, they got all wound up and they didn't actually get the launch. But I was there through that whole thing, and my team was on the ground when they got captured in 2000 or in 2001. It was right before 9. I think it was before 9/11. No,
yeah. I don't know.
Was it?
It was either like 03 or 01. I don't know. I could probably Google it, but
no, I think it's two. Yeah, it's either 2001 or 2003. I think it's 2003. Anyway, my team was on the ground when they got captured, and we were on helicopters ready to launch. And the ambassador's like, "No, they're not endangering any more people." And then they got rolled up, and they were there for like 5 years. And then I happened to come back and work at the embassy the year they got rescued, or the year before they got rescued. So I was there, doing all the backside support to get them out of the country and to make sure they got back safe after they got rescued. And then my team was there 2 years before that because we were training with the guys that were supposed to go rescue them. And so, I had the whole piece of the whole puzzle was all, plus I was in Lancero school. So all that stuff, but all the different points of view of like the person on the ground doing the training, getting ready to go. What were you thinking? And then the guy in the embassy, what was going on there and all that stuff. I always love those kind of multi-perspective views. I don't know. I don't want to take over your book. Yeah,
no, but that one. So that one, there's stuff like that works really well with multi-perspective because you can do. To me, I could do 3 scenes in that story. They could be 3 years apart, and you're still going to get the story. You're just going to get 3 perspectives, each one multiple years apart, and you as the reader will walk the journey of that rescue. But really, there were tons of people involved for a long period of time. You're like, how cool is that story? There's one guy that wants to do a similar perspective piece because he was doing combat operations over in Iraq, and he said that they had this weird spades thing in their unit where they played spades like compulsively. It became an issue, like so much of an issue playing spades that the command got involved. That's how hard it was for them to play spades. And he's like, I would love to do a piece where I'm talking through this mission and the scenes are you jumping from the different players as they're like talking through the mission, but really their background is on this spades thing that they're trying to, while they're like clearing houses, but really what we're worried about is, how many bags did you take while we were freaking bidding last night? To me, again, there's no bad stories. There's so many good ones. And that's tomorrow. So tomorrow I'm going to do my first one with a guy who, he was working with the Israelis, and there's like this translation error where he hears them say, horses, they're briefing. So he's there doing a JSET. He's advising. These guys are like talking about horses, like, oh, we're going to mitigate risk. We're going to talk about risk, and we're going to mitigate our horses. And he's like, stop. He's like, English is probably bad or something. Like, yeah, horses is not horses. What do you mean to say? He's like, horses, like, horses, like, legs, horses. And he's like confused as shit. He's like, why are you mitigating horses? And it turns out that's a thing because the Israelis were stacking on doors. And when they'd stack, the folks they were going up against would keep the livestock on the roof. And so one of the TTPs they had to defeat was that the dudes would startle a horse and it would hit the stack, like fall off the roof on the stack. And it's of course devastating. It's like 1,000-pound animal crashing onto you. And so they had horse mitigation. And it's just this hilarious, like, we're doing some really hot CQB in a super hot area, and we're just stuck on this horse thing. And I love that stuff, man. I try to work that stuff in all my books, and so far it responds well. Like people I get more messages about the weird shit in the book with people asking about like, what the hell was that? What did that happen? How did that than about any of the combat stuff? Because I think
Yeah.
people love that just little trivia.
Yeah. No, my first book that I wrote at the end of my MFA program was basically all of my journals that I fictionalized all my journals and put them in the book. Well, I mean, a lot of it was just true, and I just gave it to one of the characters as his journal. And so, yeah, all my stuff is in that book. But yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah. But I want to go into like the like Operation Pineapple Express. We must have interviewed like 30 people at least, like usually 2 hour interviews with these guys. And and we did that for like 3 months before we even started writing the book. And the best thing I could do was I was in each one, and after each interview, I'd go through the transcript and I would highlight quality lines, like this is dialogue. This is
Yep.
what we're going to put in the book as dialogue and stuff like that. And then when we started writing the book, I would help outline it. I would give kind of like the story grid, 5 commandments and stuff, and then I would link all of the pertinent interviews, and then I would write down all the cool lines from that interview, like so they could use it as part of the dialogue in the scene.
That's awesome. And that is what I'm going to try and do tomorrow. Is what you're talking about. Is how do you make your note taking work in such a way that you don't want to do another interview before you kind of dump this interview, or they start getting all muddled together. And I want to write it. So my goal is if I can at least outline one, take notes, but two, outline the scene after every interview and before the next one. I think I can go flesh it out later because the outline will be enough to kind of cue it. But to your point, like key lines of dialogue, key how the scene is going to flow, like whatever scene setter stuff you got to do, and then just go through and like mark. I mean, I'm going to use an online transcript. So I'm going to use a transcript tool to record it all, and then go through and highlight the text of the key stuff that you're like, I have to mention this because it's just too good. And we'll see. From there, what I want to do is build out a pregame document that I can hand interviewees beforehand so that I bumped into folks already who are a little like, just, I don't know, how do I tell a story? Like, you have stories, I promise. Let me just help pull it out of you a little bit. Give me these details and we'll get you to a good one. So I want to use that to kind of guide their conversation, just help structure their thoughts, I guess.
I think something. I mean, I can help you make this. You're going to have your interview tomorrow, but I can help you make it the second one if you want.
Sure.
I think when I interview people and they've been talking to me for an hour, and I get to a scene that I get to a story or situation that I think will make a good scene, then I try to dig into the difficult question. Like, all right, you set this up where you got to a really tense moment, and you had a couple of different things you could have done, right? You could have gone right, or you could have gone left. You could have, bailed out, or you could have said, I think I can make it. That's not going to be all life and death every time, but ask them when you find that crossroads where they would have had to make a difficult decision, getting into their head and having them like reiterate like the stakes. Every time I ask this of anybody, they're like, oh, I never really thought of that. You know why? Because they were trained and they did one thing. But when you have them really think of it, they're like, what could have gone wrong? And what were the stakes for that? And if you had done it right, what were you hoping for? And try to figure that out so that you have these really tense situations that you set up. I mean, you may not get the inciting incident just like we do with fiction and stuff like that. But usually the inciting incident is the start of the situation that got him in that place in the first time. Like it was a IED that went off, or it was, we ran out of beer, or, so-and-so got, I don't know what you call it whenever someone gets all the bags and spades, but someone else ran, someone ran the table, and that it's bugging you on the mission or something like that. So those are kind of good inciting incidents, I guess. It could even be like, you get a mission and it's to get this guy or to do this or to go get the mail. And that's the inciting incident of the scene. And then when you get there, I'll give you one. Afghanistan, we're going on a mail run And when I get there, I have been sending like emails, like weekly emails to my parents. And this is in 2002, end of 2002, 2003. And I was working with the National Guard, and one of the National Guard guys was independent wealthy, and he bought this huge like satellite and had it delivered to Bath, and we picked it up and we set it up on the roof, and we had internet, but we didn't have. This is before wireless, so it was wired all over the freaking base. But this is like the only people who had internet at the time was Bath and maybe CAF, and that was it. And you had to go and wait for 5 hours. We had one, and we had wires going into the things, and then like 20 different stations, and everyone had their own thing. It was great. And I was writing my parents at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. Every time we did a mission, I kind of summarized it, cleaned it up a little bit, sent it to them. They were sending it. There was no news coming out of Afghanistan. There was not a whole lot of journalists down there in that first year and a half.
Yeah. And
plus Iraq was starting. And so as soon as Iraq hit that March, everyone went to Iraq, and there's no journalists in Afghanistan. So I was sending this stuff out. My parents were forwarding it to family and friends who were forwarding it to whoever. So I didn't know this. So I started sending it. I've been there a month. I go to the base, and there's a freaking ISU-90 full of names. And I show up, and the mail guy's like, yeah, name. I was like, Randall Searles. Like, oh, you. I'm like, oh, me? Does that mean I got a lot of mail? I was like, yeah, you got some mail. So he takes me out. I unlock the ISU-90. He's like, it was a double ISU-90. It was like those big like containers for a ship. Yeah. He's like, I was like, all right, well, do I have to dig through it? He's like, no, it's all yours. And I was like, all mine?
What?
Schools sent me stuff, like, and individual people sent me stuff. People sent me money to pay teachers. They sent me Pop-Tarts. They sent me schools, notebooks and pens and paper and tools and everything. And so I had to decide if I wanted to invest money in like 3 jingle trucks or nothing and some Hajis to pack it.
Because it's hundreds of pounds of shit.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so those are kind of like the hard decisions, that you have to make. And then how do you give it to people? Who do you decide to pay? Which teachers do you decide to pay? So do I like, how do I do what they wanted me to do with the stuff and not like put it in the corner to rot? Like eventually, we got so much stuff over there in 2000, 2009, it rots because you don't know someone to use it, or people got so many good food now they don't care about the Pop-Tarts.
I don't care about Pop-Tarts anymore.
Yeah. So those are also all great stories. I can't wait to see what you come up with. This is going to be a good story.
I love it. Be thinking about the one you'd like to include, man. That right there, it's a great story. People would love to read that bizarre story of like, what the fuck did you do with all that shit? What do you do with 100 pounds of Pop-Tarts when you get them? But you know the deal. I mean, and as far as the form, I would love. I got to go here in a few minutes. But I would love to have some help putting that interview form together, because a lot of what you're saying is great. Like, I had not thought of think about the kind of dilemma you're in. Think about what could have gone wrong. Because that's the stuff that gets inside the person's head that helps you really write out a fully formed story, that helps you write the stuff people want to know. I would love some help putting that together. I mean, tomorrow's going to be a cold one. We're going to just grip it and rip it, and we'll see how it goes. And then, a little more guidance for the rest.
I'll try to put something together this weekend and send it to you, and then we can talk about it maybe on a Google Doc or something.
Perfect. Let's do it. Okay,
we can call it quits now, man.
Yeah, let's do it.
Good talking to you again.
It's good catching up. Okay. Get home for dinner like always.
And I'll see you next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody.